Welcome to Up to So Good, the podcast that unlocks the secrets of creating a purpose-driven business so we can all make this world a better place. Come join the conversation. Hello and welcome to Up to So Good, the podcast that explores the purpose of business. I'm your host, Lena Monroe. Now, we all know that it's no secret that the fashion industry is not exactly the most environmentally sustainable or socially responsible. And that's where my next guest, Sophia Yang, comes in. She's the founder and director of Hreading Change. It's the first global youth-led NGO that focuses on three main aspects in order to make change, and that is education, consultation, as well as innovation. They envision a future that embraces feminism and a fossil fuel-free fashion industry. Now, you don't have to be somebody who's super interested in fashion to appreciate this episode. We talk about fashion, yes, but we talk about sustainability and the environment and what the youth are doing about it. In fact, the sweater you're wearing might just pollute your drinking water and filling it up with microplastics. We'll be talking about that and much more. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to Up to So Good, the podcast that explores the purpose of business. I'm your host, Lena Monroe, and today we have a wonderful, exciting guest with us, Sophia Yang from Hreading Change. She is the founder and the executive director of Hreading Change. Welcome to our show.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I love this because the topic we're going to explore is fashion,
Yes.
fashion.
Yeah.
Like super fun, super awesome. Personally, kind of one of my fave topics.
Mine too.
Yeah. I don't feel like I'm not even all that fashionable. Really.
I think you are. I noticed
thank
outfit
you.
right away. Yeah, it looks
you.
amazing.
Yes. I enjoy it. I like to, look nice. And I think something that you talk about a little bit on your website is about fashion being kind of this way of self-expression.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with that. I think so many people, that resonates so much with people. But before we go into the depths of the fashion, sustainability, fashion fun, all this stuff, let's talk about Hreading Change. What is Hreading Change?
Yeah, for sure. So Hreading Change is the world's leading youth-led ethical fashion and circular economy organization. We are a non-for-profit, but we call ourselves very much a social purpose organization. And our mission is what we call the 6 Fs, which is a feminist, fossil fuel-free fashion future.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's break it down.
Yeah.
So the first line, Hreading Change is what? What kind of a youth-led?
So we are the world's largest and leading ethical fashion NGO. NGO, yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of fashion organizations, a lot of fashion brands and companies out there, right?
Yeah.
But there's less fashion NGOs, and there's even less fully youth-led and by youth NGOs working in fashion. It's very important that youth are engaged adequately in this topic area because of our purchasing power, right? And how much trends and consumerism is mass marketed to us. So we really launched a company to want to give young people a voice.
Okay, so I know about NGOs. There's all kinds of NGOs out there trying to do a lot of good in the world. The truth is, I don't know much about a fashion NGO. Is that a popular area for NGOs to be in? Or are you you said you're one of the first, you are the first youth-led.
Yeah.
But are you one of the first in general? Fashion?
No, there's definitely, there's more and more fashion not-for-profits. And the thing with fashion is there's so many topic areas you can work in, right?
Okay.
Whether it's circular sourcing, human rights due diligence, fair pay. There's definitely a lot of, kind of like 2 categories. There's like environmental fashion NGOs that work in like recycling.
Right.
And then there's like the human rights fashion NGOs, but they oftentimes work in silos. So that's why I created Hreading Change, really look at the intersectionality of fashion, engaging young people in the process.
Okay, so yours is not so siloed. You're looking at both the
Yes.
sustainability as well as the social aspect of it, right?
100%, yeah.
Okay, so that's really powerful. Thank you for explaining that. But I don't know if people are so aware. The fashion industry is a dirty industry.
Yeah.
It's dirty.
Really, it is.
It's dirty for the planet and it's dirty for the people.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, one of our core values is definitely placing people before profits. Okay. Because we're also an organization that has an entire woman and BIPOC-led team.
Amazing.
For example, all of our board members are from garment-heavy producing countries that typically have been really affected by the fashion industry, like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Vietnam. So we really seek to place the people at the epicenter of the industry that the fashion industry has forgotten, right? It's a lot of trends are produced in Europe and North America, mass marketed, and then all the textile waste dumping goes to Africa, goes to South America and Chile.
I can't even believe it. I did not know that. You know, we've been interviewing some people and we're learning more and more about this. But like think about how that's mind blowing. That's how dirty this industry is. Like our waste, things even we give away are actually ending up in and they're polluting many countries.
Yeah.
Right? Wow. So your actual movement, your group really speaks to my heart in so many ways. Like I can't even believe you guys exist. Yeah. it's incredible, the things. And you're very young. Like you formed pretty much, was it 2020?
Yeah, so we launched a company when I was still in my early 20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're still in your 20s. You're
I'm still in my 20s, yeah.
You're really young. I was like, did we just hire a teen? Is there a teen? Do we have a teen here in our interview chair? No. But okay, let's back up. How did this even start? What was your inspiration? Because you're the founder. You created this.
Yeah.
So did you just sort of wake up one day, you're like, I'm so sick of this nonsense. And, I believe you were out of the country and something inspired you. You want to talk about that?
Yeah,
okay.
Totally. So I would say in 2018, it was my last year at UBC in Vancouver, and I had a roommate that pretty much thrift or secondhand bought all his clothing, and we were very close as housemates and friends. So I followed him to some different like thrift stores and stuff, and then I realized that whenever I used to live on Commercial Drive for many years, whenever we on the drive, every time I would wear like a thrifted, a secondhand, vintage outfit, someone, at least 2-3 people, like every day would say, I love your outfit, I love your jacket. And it became this thing where I was like, I wonder if I wore something from a brand you can buy in the mall, if the same thing would happen. So I did this experiment, and then I wore something from like a brand that, found on Robson Street or the mall, and no compliments. And I realized that fashion is a form of self-expression, but there's so much like individuality and creativity and history that's woven into a thrifted vintage piece, right?
Ooh,
yeah. Like, have you ever gone to a sort of store and then you buy something and you go home, you're like so excited to try it on, you dig your hands into the pockets, there's like a note, there's like a receipt.
I haven't had that experience, but I actually really love thrifted clothes. Like my favorite thing to do, I love specifically consignment stores, because those are super, super curated.
Yeah.
But I haven't had that experience. But I'm gonna dig into pockets. Maybe I haven't checked. I don't know. But the experience of wearing something from a vintage store, consignment, or thrifted, and getting tons of compliments. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Tons.
Yeah.
People notice, and there's such a personality. In these,
sure.
And there's like, this is gonna sound kind of maybe hokey, maybe it's a little woo-woo, I don't know. But I feel like certain items have been so loved.
Yes.
And it's like you put them on, you can feel the love, and you wear them, and all of a sudden it's like I had these jeans that they were. I mean, I think I still might have them. Actually, I think now they're in my like giveaway pile, but I've had them for over a decade, and they were all embroidered. And so I don't know if somebody just hand embroidered or did something on the legs, but I've never seen anything unique like that in any type of, But my favorite items are also, thrifted.
Sure.
And
I want to go back to what you said about the uniqueness component and the history, right? Yeah. So I had this notion in my mind where, wow, we should all be viewing our clothing not as commodities, but as stories.
Ooh.
And then I thought about the pair of shoes that I wore when my mom and I first immigrated from China to Canada. I still have that pair of sneakers in my mom's basement, and just like the stories and the awe when I was 8 years old of going to this like foreign place and meeting new people. And there's so much history that has to be embedded in our clothing, and mass market trends and consumerism and just always shopping has really taught us and brought us away from that. So I made it my mission to essentially only shop secondhand or only vintage or thrift or do clothing swaps. And I think my style evolution also began.
Okay, first of all, I love what you said about every item we wear being a story. That's so beautiful. And when you get clothing from vintage or thrifted places, absolutely, that's a story.
Yeah.
And you really can tell the difference, Like, I find like the most unique outfits and the most beautiful ones. I would have been the one complimenting you as you were walking down the street because, like it's true. I mean, you don't see that in department stores because of fast fashion or whatever. But tell me about the outfit you're wearing right now, and we'll describe it for the listeners at home because it's very lovely, unique, and just you're so well put together. So we'll start with, so you're wearing basically, it's a long black dress with some gorgeous brown boots.
Yes.
And then this really cute top with several colors. Now, for those listeners who are just listening and you want to actually see the outfit, I would say go onto YouTube, find us, and look at how lovely and well put together this outfit is. Okay, so describe to me each piece, please.
So this top I got in Brooklyn, New York last month when I was there for Climate Week. I was just in Manhattan for the conference, and the last day I was like, I need to go to Brooklyn. It's one of my favorite cities. The place is called Awoke Vintage, and this piece is actually made from a recycled burlap sack that used to hold fruits. Like, it used to hold apples. So there's like apple details on it. So it's like a vintage sack is like the brand. And they have like bags that hold like pears and orange and other designs.
Those are the most fashionable sacks.
Yeah.
What? How can a sack be so cool?
Yeah, just like a fabric that like repurposed. It has some wooden buttons on it, which I love. And then I paired it with this long black dress from COS.
I love the long black dress.
Yeah, so I've been going
gorgeous.
to so many conferences in the last year where I need clothes I can like, wear to a conference, but then wear to cocktail hour.
Yes.
Wear to a party. So like I like repurposing items. So this dress is made with next gen fibers. And next gen fibers.
Sorry, next gen?
Yeah, next gen.
Like next generation? Or is that one word, next gen?
Next is short for next generation.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll talk a bit more into this later, but it's essentially fibers that are made from recycled materials.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is a fully recycled dress.
You know, it blows my mind. You can do that. You can actually recycle fibers and turn them into clothing.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's all good.
I'm going to inhale coffee again because that's such an exciting, that's so incredible.
Yeah.
So, and then tell me about the boots.
Yeah. So the top and the dress are both recycled with recycled materials. Mm-hmm. The boots are from Vagabond Shoes. It's one of my favorite brands. It's this really nice brown kind of like riding shoe. And I've worn it to many conferences and parties.
They're
it's perfect.
Cool.
Yeah.
She gets 10 out of 10 out of 10 on a 10 on how she looks. But what was it that made you think, I need to do this? I need to launch an NGO.
Yeah.
Because that's a big, like a lot of people will get it in their mind that, oh my God, I need to do something.
Yeah.
And most of them might change their buying habits, which is something anyone can do. It's a very rare individual who's like, well, you know what? I'm just going to start a company.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say for me, so I had that in mind, I want to secondhand shop and thrift everything. And I was noticing how, Vancouver actually has a lot of brands from Vancouver, right? Like Lululemon is massive. So I was like, okay, Vancouver, like Arc'teryx from North Van. So I was like, there's fashion brands in Vancouver. So I try to engage in sustainable fashion, but I was hard to engage on the corporate side because I was still relatively young in my early 20s, and I went to a few sustainable fashion events, like clothing swaps, but everything was very high level. Everything was just about just swap. And I felt there has to be more than just swapping and shopping less. Because that's something the consumers are doing.
Yes.
But the brands also need to be held accountable, right?
Yes.
So how can I drive change in that way?
And was your background in fashion?
Not at all. No? My background was in environmental science and forestry.
Oh my gosh.
At UBC. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Very connected to fashion.
It actually is, yeah.
Is it?
Explain, yeah. There's a lot of linkage between forest and fashion. So I was like a bit dismayed. I felt like there was this lacking in the ethical fashion space in Vancouver because it's hard to engage with the big brands. So then in 2018, I was really growing into my being a climate activist and activist as well. That was my first year attending the UN climate conference. So COP24, it was in Poland. And I was a youth delegate with the British Columbia Council for International Cooperation, huge acronym. And, a lot of the people there were very much like leaders, like BC youth leaders in the climate space. And I remember when the delegation lead asked us what we were interested in, and everyone had something. Someone said nature-based solutions, someone said civic engagement, someone said climate finance, someone said public health. And they came to me and I was kind of like, I'm interested in everything because climate is very much an all-encompassing issue, right? I'm interested in renewable energy, indigenous people's platforms, climate adaptation. Yeah. So I was like, I guess I'll just follow along like all these topics. And my first COP conference, it was really overwhelming to try and follow everything.
Right.
So I told myself at the end of that conference, when I go again, I want to zone in on one topic. And I'm going to spend the next year figuring out what that topic is. So when I went again the second time, which was COP25 in Madrid, I remember be on the plane on the way from Vancouver to Madrid. First time in Spain, I was very excited. And then I was looking at all the side events they had, and there was over 500 side events. And I was like, you know what? The last year, I've really committed to only buying secondhand and not buying anything new and thrifting. I'm going to look at events on fashion. That's what I'm going to focus on at the conference. I did a Control F search. Guess how many events there was on fashion? At the world's largest climate conference.
Not many.
There was one.
Oh my God.
There was one out of 500.
Wow.
On fashion. And I was like, okay.
And yet, do you know the stats? Like what's in terms of the biggest contributors to sort of our climate issues and earth issues, what would fashion be in terms of the ranking?
So fashion currently generates about 8 to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions.
Okay.
That's more than
Makes
the maritime and the shipping industry combined.
Amazing. And there was one event.
One event.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that means that there's need for change.
Totally. But this was 2019, right? So I went to that one event, and it was the 1-year anniversary signing of the UN Sustainable Fashion Charter. So I remember sitting in the audience, and there were all these, representatives from major banks and major fashion brands there, and they were all up there, and they were saying, today we're coming at you with this landmark agreement that is the first time industry and fashion industry and government are working together. And I was like, I don't know if it was the first time, but okay, working together to really combat the fashion industry, where the harmful effects of it. And they said, and I noticed that the focus area of this event was all just talking about emissions reduction. It was all from a climate mitigation perspective. How can we can reduce? But there was no mention of garment workers, no mentions about the human dimensions of fashion, like due diligence, fair pay, living wages, working conditions. And I noticed they kept using this word next generation, but they were not saying in terms of next generation. They were like, we need to be engaging next generation. That's in youth. And myself, I'm looking to this other youth from Amsterdam sitting beside me, and no one on that stage is a young person represented talking about fashion. No one up there was a person of color that is actually from a garment producing country or from a country where clothing is dumped. And everyone up there was, the exact people talking about how great they're doing are the ones that are the most responsible for the problem. So the session really felt like it was them saying, look at us, and look how it's like if you had a glass of milk and you spilled it and you said, look at me, everyone, and what a great job I'm doing cleaning up this glass of milk
that's you spilled.
It's not anything revolutionary. It's your responsibility. So from that moment, I left that event feeling really dismayed and just thinking I have to do something about this.
Incredible. And then look at what you did. You created a movement. Okay, so then what were the next steps? What happened? You wanted to create something, and then...
So then I remember I was like, okay, well, in the industry spaces, young people are not represented. Maybe in the youth spaces at COP and these conferences, young people are talking about fashion and circular economy. So I did some digging. I went to several different meetings and events, and there was youth working groups for renewable energy, climate adaptation, nothing on fashion, nothing on circular economy. So I was like, okay, there's a gap there as well. So when I came back, I had this thought in my mind and started to kind of do some research, because I'm a huge proponent of collaboration instead of competition.
Agreed.
I do not want to reinvent the wheel. I want to be collaborative and also just bring in allies and see the further change we can bring together. Did a lot of research, and I could not find a youth-led ethical fashion organization. I just couldn't. I did a lot of research. I talked to over 100 practitioners in Vancouver, Canada, wide around the globe. That didn't exist. The closest thing was Fashion Revolution and Remake, that are amazing fashion NGOs. They work a lot in the intersectionality, fashion sustainability, and human rights component as well. But it's not necessarily youth-led, right? There's young people in the network, but it's not youth-focused. And I'll say one of the other reasons that I really thought is very important to engage young people is that in the US alone, age 12 to 25, I think the statistic is there's a $490 billion purchasing power is what young people have. And young people are some of the biggest consumers of micro trends, right? And driving all of this fashion consumption with the growth of TikTok and Instagram and social media. But when it comes to engaging young people in fashion, all that brands ever care about is how can we market to Gen Z? How can we market to you to sell more product? But we have so much more to contribute than just with our money, right? Young people are innovators, we're visionaries, and we're going to be the leaders and regulators of not just tomorrow, but today, of right now. And if you don't engage us, then how are we ever going to have a seat at the table to really think about all these important decisions going to affect our lives right now and in the future,
Absolutely.
Right? So I was thinking about all this and doing my research, and then COVID hit. And my job, I was working at an organization where I was leading a lot of social innovation labs.
Okay.
So it had social innovation on purpose built into my DNA. And all the labs were in person.
Okay.
So because of COVID, my work hours got significantly reduced because everything moved to Zoom.
Right.
Now I had all this free time, and I was like, okay, this almost feels like it's an opportunity here. So I did a lot of research, and I was like, okay, there actually isn't really a youth-led fashion NGO with my experience. And one day I thought, what if I started one? And that's how I got here.
You just started it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I had a lot of experience from like working social innovation labs, and I've been a climate activist since I was 12, since David Suzuki inspired me. So I had a lot of background
I see.
and been a lot of in youth climate spaces where I had resources and people I could talk to really figure out how to do it. Had some good mentors as well. But I really will say that event in Madrid really lit a fire under me to really change the way that the industry is going.
Okay. So what exactly does threading change do? Because I believe there's 3 major ways that you contribute. I believe, I'm not remembering all of it, but one was about innovation. And then there's also consultation, right?
Yeah.
And
education.
Okay.
Yeah, we call the shins. Yeah. Yes, that's a great question. So our tri-impact model is is education, innovations through storytelling, and also consultation legislation.
Education through storytelling?
Education, innovation through storytelling.
Oh, gotcha. Education, innovation through storytelling, and then consultation.
Legislation,
Legislation, all right. So tell me about the education piece. What kinds of things do you do in that space?
Yeah, so this was kind of like the first arm that we really dove hard into. So we do a lot of online programming and webinars because COVID, right? Everything was online.
Yeah.
We also do in-person workshops to schools. We've taught students as young as 6 to seniors as old as 98, 90 plus, because we used to work with Suzuki elders. In person and online. And we also have one of our premier programs that launched this year that's grown globally, which I'm so proud of, which is called the Fair Fashion Festival.
The Fair Fashion Festival.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
I want to go to this Fair Fashion Festival.
Yeah.
What, tell us, what is this?
Yeah, so it's FFF for short, and it's really looking at how we can examine intersectionality of fashion of both, doing social good and environmental components. So talking about textile waste diversion, emissions reduction, but also human rights, fair pay, and living conditions, and engaging young people and intergenerationally in the process.
And where is this held?
So I love this question because something about threading change is we started in Vancouver.
Yes.
And but now we're very global. But Vancouver will always be home. We actually incubate a lot of our initial programs in Vancouver, using it as like a testing ground. Yeah. When it goes really well, then we do it in other cities. So she's
brilliant. Isn't Sophia brilliant? You are brilliant. Oh my gosh, powerhouse woman. All the things that you've said in the last 7 minutes, I've just, in my mind is blown because I'm like, how is she putting all this together? You're just brilliant. Sorry to interrupt. Let's keep going. So Vancouver is going to be the incubator. I just think that idea is so brilliant as well, to incubate and test before you launch on a global scale. Because I think people fail very fast when they go too far too quick without first testing in a smaller way. This particular, I'm going to guess the festival is going to be here?
Yeah, so we did our first one in Vancouver this April as part of Fashion Revolution Week. We did it at Slice of Life Gallery, so it's a commercial and vendables, and I wanted to do it there because my journey started from walking up and down commercial and people saying I like your outfit, and that just led me to...
Do you want to do one event here? You should.
Oh my god, that'd be amazing.
Yes, come.
Yeah,
to remind some of the listeners, I don't know if you know how you're watching this or listening to this, but this podcast is actually an extension of All Purpose, our creative agency. We're a design agency, and we do a website and media and all of this stuff. And we have this beautiful space.
It's very beautiful.
In the heart of downtown.
Yeah.
It's a 100-year-old building. It's a heritage building, and we're filming inside an actual bank vault.
Yeah.
The reason being that, what? There's some secrets to good business. It's time to share. Plus the audio is really good in the vault. So there's that. But I mean, let's talk about this after. I think this would be a great place to host a powerful and purposeful and beautiful event like this.
Yeah. Let's chat. That would be amazing.
So I feel like, the more we do things in community and collaboratively and together, like the bigger, stronger impact we can make. We can make. People, how valuable for you is it to partner and really, do you find that that's also a valuable way, or do you feel like, people don't understand your vision, you want to go at this alone? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think collaboration is definitely extremely important and is very vital to our organization. I think we've really gotten where we are today because of collaboration. So I was highlighting one of the key components of the Fair Fashion Festival is we always have a collaborator for every event. So for the Vancouver one, that was this April, the collaborator with Connecting Environmental Professionals Vancouver chapter. So there was a really rich discussion about fashion careers and also Changemakers' journey. And then that that event went really well that we then brought the festival to Toronto in August, and we did a full-fledged fair fashion festival in Toronto in mid-August. We had about over 400 attendees come, and that event, the collaborator was Oxfam Canada, which was an amazing collaborator. And that event, because with Oxfam, the big focus was on garment workers' rights and also human rights.
Yes,
so it's always like a theme for every FFF.
Yeah.
And then after that, we had FFF in Halifax. It was at Dalhousie University, so a lot of young people went. And we also had speakers and panelists from the National Association for Charitable Textile Recycling, Nectar, and then people from Environment Climate Change Canada. So there was a huge focus on policy.
And so what will be for this year, for January?
Yeah, so the next Fair Fashion Festival is next Saturday, and it's in Nairobi, Kenya.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I've been to Nairobi. That's why I'm like freaking out.
Cool.
I was like, isn't that where there's those giant markets of the used clothing
Yeah. So we have an entire Africa team. We do a lot of engagement in Kenya, all around Nairobi area, and a lot of the work that our Africa team focuses on is on textile waste and diversion.
Because I think, from my understanding, I don't know for sure. Some of the locals told me that it's a lot of textile waste that is being resold. Yeah.
Yes, it's so much.
And from I don't even remember. I'm going to have to, this is many, many, many years ago. And I don't know if we actually went to that particular market or if I was just told about it and I have a vision in my head about this market. But I'm seeing like a huge array of clothing. Yeah. But it's all waste.
It's all waste.
It's all waste from North America, mostly in Europe.
Yeah. And sometimes because my Africa regional lead, Janet, she's amazing. We went to Dubai last year together for the COP conference. She sent me pictures of the waste picking, and a lot of times the tag is still attached. Brand new in a bag, brand new in a box, never been worn. So, there's sometimes it could be possible that brands, they have unsold inventory and they want to get rid of it, so they just throw it away. We actually did a textile waste site tour last month where we bought 15 African youth and we did a tour of the dump site. Yeah. And you need to be wearing gumboots and protective goggles because a lot of the clothing is on fire.
What?
Yeah.
It's on fire?
Yeah, because it's very, very hot in Kenya and it overheats, and a lot of clothing now, there's plastics.
It's flammable?
Well, there's plastics in clothing, right? Like polyester, microplastics in clothing. It catches on fire. There's toxic fumes. It is a horrid sight to behold. We really have made Africa and also Chile fashion's wasteland.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. My understanding was that in those markets, I understood that it was sort of like the waste, but I didn't know, are people going into garbage dumps and pulling out the clothes that they want to sell, or is it donated? Or both?
That's a good question. So if you went to one near Nairobi, it's very likely the Gikoba market. Okay. And then there's also one in Ghana as well, the Katamento market. So typically what people do is they get huge shipments of huge bales. So these are just clothing that's been compressed and taken the air out. And this huge, I don't even know the size. The size of a bale is probably the size of this vault right here. Okay. That's how big it is. Probably 3 meters high by 5 meters wide of just clothes. Okay. And they just drop it off a dump site, or they will take it to the market first, and then people kind of dig through, find what's new, hasn't been worn, and then maybe that could be resold. But the majority of it just goes to the waste site directly. And when they drop the bales, there's all these plastic knots that tie the bales together. They're made out of plastic and they're not recyclable, right? And when you go around the market, you just see, and the dump site, you just see so much plastic lying around because that was also used to hold the clothes. And this always leaches into the waterways and the water systems. There's clothing in the rivers. The rivers are red. It's a sight to behold. We are really polluting so many components of the global south because of our fashion consumption and greed. Yeah.
Has there ever been a documentary really explaining this and going deep into this space?
Yeah, so our second webinar season, what we did called Clothes Busters in 2021, kind of a homage to Mythbusters, but busting the myths about clothing. We had the director of this film, I highly recommend it, called True Blue, and is really talking about the impacts of the fashion industry on waterways. And they have footage from India, footage from different parts of Africa, like Ghana, and also Kenya, and also Bangladesh, talking about the effects of toxic dyes in river systems. And it's called River Blue, sorry, not True Blue. I'm confused with another documentary called True Cost, which a lot of people have seen. And that's a fashion documentary that's a lot of people's first foray into like understanding the fashion industry. So those two are really great places to start. And we've gotten the filmmakers of both of those documentaries to like come to our events, which has been really good. But I want to spin this into a positive note, because I think, something about the climate movement is it can get so depressing when we just focus on the issue, right?
Right.
And that's also something that I feel like sometimes it's hard for, it's hard for young people to access some of these spaces because they're not always properly engaged.
Part of our mandate at All Purpose, it's also infusing positivity when and how we can. That there's also, in addition to the fact there's a lot of ills happening in society, the way people are being taken advantage of, and the way the world and the planet is being taken advantage of. But, hurt people cause hurt too.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of souls and deep in people's hearts that are hurting. And so where we can also make change, but also have positivity and really kindness is so important. So in threading change, it feels like there's a lot of kindness in your organization as well. Can you comment on that? And positivity, actually.
Yeah. I feel so lucky to work with my best friends. I've built the most amazing team of young women and also very wise women in our board of advisors. And we talk about it's amazing to be able to, I don't even say it's like going to work every day. It's just, we're changing the world every day. It's amazing to work with change makers and globe shakers, and you can talk about fashion and, dismantling certain systems and sustainable investing and philanthropy. But then just how was your day? Like, what's going on in your life? Like, what are you and your partner doing? Like, it's just been so incredible to grow alongside these women. And we're very much a horizontal organization. Everyone has a say in decisions, and
beautiful.
We work across teams. We have most of the teams is like our education team, our development team, and then also a communications team, and then our Africa team, and we all collaborate so incredibly well together. So that's been the best part about that. And I think also with fashion, we're working to keep a very corrupt industry accountable. Right? And the reason why we founded our organization is we don't often see people that look like us represented in fashion, right? We don't see that many BIPOC women represented that are from Asian countries where most of the clothing is produced. It's a lot of Eurocentric beauty standards. We're also here to dismantle that and show that it's possible to have this incredible cohort of women create this change. And that's why I'm so excited for the Fair Fashion Festivals to go to more global places, like in Nairobi. Like, here we are, we're doing this, and all the partners are African-led and African-based and really honing in the importance of diversity. And then we're also taking the festival to other regions next year, to New York and also London, UK. So I'm just really excited to be entering. I'm going to be
following you. I'm going to be at a few of these. I can't wait.
You should come to one. You should either be a speaker or
my gosh.
something.
Oh, I would love to. Yes.
That'd be amazing.
If you were ever doing one, especially anything in India. I mean, that's actually my heritage. I'm I guess a child of an immigrant family that came from India. They didn't come, my father especially didn't come from much, but really, it's a very, I guess, classic immigrant story, coming here and struggling and, making a life for themselves here and for their, 5 kids. They just kept having children, and here I'm one of them. But we went back quite often, as much as we could. And I did more as an adult because I love the language and the culture and the fashion and the food. And then you also see the other side of it, where the influence of the West has affected, and European standards, etc., has affected everything. And such a region that's so rich with beautiful cultural heritage has been it's been diluted, and it's kind of heartbreaking.
We actually have a chapter in Bangalore, and we've done events there. And I was actually invited to speak at a conference in Mumbai next week.
What?
But I had to turn it down just because of other work obligations, and I'm going to another conference in LA. So,
okay, if you do want to go to Mumbai, I'll come with you.
Okay, sounds good.
Just go. I haven't been there in such a long time. I love it. Everyone there speaks English now, but if you did need some Hindi help, I'd help.
It'd be amazing to do a Fair Fashion Festival in Mumbai or Bangalore. We do have lots of volunteers in India, so that'd be amazing.
Wow. Okay, so let's talk about even some of the material, because I think the fashion industry is is it wrong for me to say it's a bit of a dirty industry?
It's very dirty.
It is very dirty, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I don't think, I feel like people just don't know.
Yeah.
You know, well, we're at a place now where people should know. If people are buying things online, I'm not going to say which online company, okay? But I think we all know. We know. Yes. Oh, is the sheen of my outfit a little bit bright?
I see it gleaming.
Ooh, we know. Yeah. I did not say any names. I did not say anything to get us in trouble. But we'll just say there are some fashion online stores where you can buy things for dirt cheap. Know that if you're buying something for dirt cheap, you're paying a huge human cost in that, an environmental cost and a human cost, because nothing can be made that cheap. You know, and it's just... I don't know. I guess when people don't really, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And in these times, it's also very expensive for people because of inflation and cost of living, that there's this desire to buy something quick and cheap.
Yeah.
But can you share how that's actually more expensive in the long run?
Yeah. So I would say for us, we want to make our programs very accessible. And because we're a for youth by youth organization, you know, especially working with a lot of students, young people don't have the capability to shell out like $1,000 on this new bag or new jeans, right?
Right.
So I think one of the first things to say is the most sustainable thing you can do is wear what you already have in your closet. But if you have to get something quote unquote new, think about shopping secondhand, because it's still new to you, right?
Oh,
it's not like a new item, but it's still new to you. Secondhand clothing swaps, vintage shopping, different methods. And the third thing you can do, and you should always do this, is really take time to understand the materiality and the fabric composition of your clothes. What does it mean when it's cotton, when it's polyester, when it's like nylon? Is it made with a mammecellulosic fiber? Is it recycled?
What? With a what fiber?
So mammecellulosic fibers, MMCFs, are materials.
Mammecellulosic.
Yeah, so MMCFs, man-made cellulosic fibers. They're fibers made from cellulose from trees. From trees fibers, from plants.
Oh, wow.
And this is where my background in forestry linked together with my passion for fashion.
Oh my gosh.
So I actually right now work with some of the world's largest companies, helping them source better mammecellulosic fibers. So ensuring that the materials in their supply chain that are coming from trees are not coming from ancient and endangered forests.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So the material composition is huge. And as a consumer, once you better understand, a huge part of understanding is knowing how to read the label.
Yes.
So it's beyond just knowing to read. Sometimes I feel like before I got into fashion sustainably, I would really look at the wash and care instructions, but look beyond that. Where is it produced? Most of the time, it's going to be made in China, Vietnam, Turkey, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, like an Asian country. Where is it produced? The washing care instructions. But what is the composition? If it's polyester, which is honestly just microplastics, every time you wash that in the washing machine, microplastics leach into the washing machine.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Number one takeaway. Stop with polyester.
Yeah.
Please. If you care about the planet and the water, our water systems, we have so little fresh water actually in this whole world. And these microplastics are going in there. So the fact that these plastics are not just in the water system, but they're in our bodies now too, because we're drinking them and eating and breathing these microplastics. So number one, there's a lot of takeaways. Please just stop with the polyester. We should go on a worldwide boycott of polyester. We have enough of it.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a campaign that Fashion Revolution did that's called No More Polyester. So that's an engagement piece. Polyester is also like a very cheap, it's a synthetic fiber, right? So it's cheaper to produce. So a lot of brands use it. And sometimes, you know, when it's polyester fabric, and you wear it, I always tell people, if you care so much about what goes in your body, with what you eat, what chemicals are in your makeup, you know, also like the people, because always like quality over quantity, right? You want good quality people around you. Why would you not the same for your clothing?
100%.
Because it touches the biggest organ we have, which is our skin, 100%. Right? So that we need to think more about the material composition. So the way that we got around this fact at Threading Change is thinking, again, what I was saying about how we're so focused on the problem instead of the solution. So I can spend all this time talking about how this brand is bad, that brand is bad, but it gets to a point where people it gets very depressing, right? It's already a hard world we live in. So we launched this initiative, and this is really touching on the innovation arm of our work, called the Global Innovation Story Map, the GISM. And what it is, it's taking the world's most ethical, sustainable brands from the perspective of, do they uphold climate, racial, labor, and gender justice. So abiding by our mission statement of the 6 Fs, and building out this culture of transparency, authenticity, and vulnerability in the industry, and spotlighting the small to medium-sized designers that are changing the world.
I love it.
Yeah, and that's it's so important to us because I've been on so many talks and panels where people were like, okay, so now I don't want to buy any new clothes. Now I don't want to, I want to shop more sustainably, or I don't want to shop at all. But I'm going to a wedding, or I'm going to this really big event where I do need a new piece. Where can I go? So I recommend, we do a lot of clothing swaps. That's one avenue, but you're not always going to find like a wedding or a cocktail dress at a swap, right? You might, like I have before. So that's why we created this story map to showcase all the brands around the world that are doing it correctly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Let's talk about globally. Threading Change is doing a lot globally. Can you expand more on what you guys are doing?
Yeah.
The initiatives and
so we definitely weave the tri-impact model of education, innovation, and consultation into all of our global work. So we have hubs around the world that we're working in, and there's kind of a different theme of how we engage in each continent. So for North America, a lot of it is focused on education and also on policy, right? Okay. So there's more policies coming through that talk about textile waste diversion and recovery in the US, but Canada is really lagging behind. So we're engaging a lot of young people, local governments and municipalities on better extended producer responsibility policy, EPR, in Canada and the US. And then for Africa, our work is very much focused on textile waste diversion. Because like I said before, a lot of it has been being used as the global north as dumping ground.
Right.
In Asia, most of the work that we do is focused on garment workers' rights and also pay and living conditions and fairly, because most of our clothing is produced in India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Vietnam, China, all Asian countries, and the garment workers need to be fairly represented and have a voice. In Latin America, we do a lot of work around engaging young people around many different topics, but because COP30, the next UN conference that's in 2025 next year, one of the biggest ones to date is going to be in Brazil. So deforestation and Amazon protection and conservation is a huge focus in Latin America.
Yeah.
And then in Europe, here's the thing with Europe, I'm going to tell you, in fashion. Europe has a lot of haute couture, and with like Milan and Prada and France. So a lot of the trends are produced in Europe. And then they're mass marketed, right? Because a lot of like Eurocentric people want to be seen as like the European fashion style. So that's one thing. But the other thing is, in policy, Europe is leading in a lot of ways, other than because they have a lot of the textile waste. The EU is doing a lot, and France is very well engaged. Like in France, you can even have tax incentives for mending your clothes, right? Okay, so they're like ahead in some regards.
Yes.
But what we're trying to engage in Europe is like, now that we have the policies that EU is doing, how can we ensure that these policies are not just a one blanket solution? You cannot take what's working in the EU and put it in the US or put it in Brazil and call it a day, right? Because different jurisdictions need different types of policies and different mechanisms, different players to enact it. So it's really important that we're engaging policymakers, educational institutions, and schools in Europe so that we can take the positives of the policy they're enacting and then see how it works in other contexts. So to kind of summarize, Asia is all about fair pay and garment workers. Africa is all about textile waste. South America is all about conservation, forest protection. North America is all about education and also policy. And then Europe is looking at what's currently working and then seeing how we can apply in different contexts, but making it very localized to that continent.
I'm amazed that you can keep all that in your head in that one sentence. Wow.
Yeah, I live and work and breathe this every day. So
So my takeaway is that each specific sort of geo is hyper focused maybe on one or two themes.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. That's fantastic. As opposed to it being sort of a blanket thing that everyone's doing. I think that you can go a lot faster and a lot further when you are focused on your particular geo and work in a way that is not siloed.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
So there is continued communication between these geos and collaboration.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So the collaboration piece is on this program we're launching next January, which is called the SDG Fashion Ambassadors Program. And what it is a policy program that takes 17 young ambassadors from around the world, all from each different geographical regions, and pairing them with a mentorship organization and a policymaker to really enact a policy that relates to textile textiles and fashion in their jurisdiction. So if it's a young person from Africa, it's going to be on waste. If it's a young person in North America, it's going to be on policy and education.
Beautiful.
We're developing this program with the UN and with lots of different fashion and environmental NGOs, with a lot of brand partners as well.
Beautiful.
I'm excited to share about some of the brands we're working with as well.
Okay.
And we're launching the cohort next year officially at COP30 in Brazil.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's one of our premier programs, and I'm so excited for it. So yeah.
Now, how does the average person sort of get involved?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say engage with us online, but also engage in any of the different try and pack model solutions. So come to an event, whether it's in person or online, attend a webinar. We host global clothing swaps. I think since 2022, when we started doing them, we hosted over 50 swaps in over 18 countries, 50 swaps in over 8 countries in over 18 cities. And we've diverted over 10,000 pounds of textile waste from the landfill.
Amazing.
Yeah. Okay.
So threadingchange.org is your website, and more information that can be found on our website as well. And we'll make sure that people have access to that information. I would love to know, what are your hopes and dreams with Threading Change? What would you like to do? What is your next sort of steps here?
Yeah, so I think our North Star is really placing young people at the epicenter of change making in the fashion industry, from the perspective of youth education, global innovation, and really spotlighting the brands that are doing the right thing, and then consultation legislation to ensure that young people are not lagging behind. We're not lagging behind in policies, and that we are effectively being engaged when speaking with brands and industries and governments, but also that to help push more legislation forward that's going to right the harmful fashion industry. Because this whole conversation we're having is because a lot of us have been, I said before, taught to treat our clothing as commodities and not as stories, right? So it's about this collective mind shift that also needs to change. So many young people are already working to engage in, extended producer responsibility policies, circular economy policies, fashion policies, but there's no spotlight on us because the big focus is always on brands and driving these mass marketed trends. So placing young people at the epicenter of this change and really spotlighting all the amazing initiatives, whether it's from a sustainability or human rights perspective, is really what we're here to do. And I'm so proud of all the work we've done the last 4 years, because when I started, no one knew what a fashion NGO was. No one even recognized why it's important to have young people working in fashion. But I feel like it's definitely changing. Like since our inception, now there's always a youth representative in every fashion conference. We're increasingly being invited to more boardrooms. Now we want to be in helping to engage and enact the policies as well. So that's the next step.
So Threading Change is very much youth-centered. However, can anyone of any age get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're for youth and by youth, but we definitely acknowledge that intergenerational collaboration is what's going to take to right the harmful fashion industry and accomplish a feminist, fossil fuel-free fashion future. So, like I said, we do work with Suzuki elders, and we have taught workshops to people of all ages. I would say, for those that are above the age 30, ways that you can engage is actually, the studies have shown a lot of people that are buying the cheap clothing are people over the age 30. It's not always young people, So continue to be engaged, continue to choose your clothing wisely to educate yourself, but also make talking about ethical fashion a topic with your kids, with your friends, with your family. It doesn't stop at any age, right? We actually did a clothing swap in June that was a family swap, because kids and toddlers grow out of their clothes so fast. Right. And if it's always buying new clothes, right? You could like swap those clothes and find alternatives. So engage with families that way. But we work with a lot of policymakers that are not youth, that are amazing champions of youth. So be a youth champion and see if you can, enact a change and help inspire the generation.
So beautiful. Well, thank you for that. Well, clearly your organization, Threading Change, is up to so good. I like that.
That was a good one.
And it's just such a pleasure and an honor to meet you. We need more change makers of any age, but in particular, I agree with you, the youth, because they're inheriting this world. And to feel empowered, because they are so powerful. Their voices are so powerful. So what you're doing is really amazing. We're big fans here at All Purpose. Thank you so much for being on the Up to So Good podcast. Any final thoughts? Any final words?
I would say, we are all in this collectively. Definitely don't feel that because you're one person, you can't make a difference. Your purchasing decisions, educating yourself about the components of your clothing, shopping less, but also just going to an event and talking to your friends and neighbors is a huge component of what you can do. So don't be dismayed and think that individual actions are important. It's definitely very important. And if you have an idea, definitely engage with others and try to collaborate to go further together, because you'll never know how far you'll go. And for me, I'm testing that every day. Like, the more that we're changing, the more that we're doing, the more global people will bring on board. It's been an amazing journey. So
and the response has been really incredible, I suspect, right?
Yes,
People are thirsty for this. They're hungry for this.
Yeah, for
sure.
Sure.
I don't think anyone wants to harm, intentionally wants to harm. Most people, it's that sort of not being aware, not knowing. So I love the 3 pillars: education, the innovation, the consultation.
Exactly. You got it.
Yes. Well, yes. It's awesome. It's wonderful. All purpose, as a company, we very much support you. We love you.
Oh,
you are, your family now. And, let's not keep threading change a secret in the vault. It's time to bring it out. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe, hit the like button, or share an episode. And if you have any feedback, questions, or comments, or show ideas, you can email us directly at hello@allpurpose.io. Thank you once again for joining us. We'll see you next time.